my interpretation of a bigger picture is that understanding the role truth plays in our lives, if every person can do that, which people are starting to. I mean, there's more books about it. People are talking about it. People are tired of just hearing the spinning, you know? And the spinning is pretty darn good. I mean, we went to a war on spinning. You know, stuff like this can happen, and it can happen very quickly if somebody skews things. Or even if it is the truth and maybe we're just not ready to accept it. Whatever the range of thought might be, as long as we speak the truth, it takes a lot of pressure off of us as people, which helps us get to the bigger pictures of ourselves, which helps us understand what it means to take care of everybody. And part of that is just understanding your role in your own life through self-accounting and saying, hey, you know what, I really did have a hand in that after you just had a big argument with somebody. And say, you know, and being able to go back to that person and say, you know what, you actually were right there. I get what you were saying. It might not have been right for me, but I get it. And that just takes the pressure off of both of you having to carry all of that and continue for a day or two or three and not accomplishing anything, just like fear, doubt, and worry stagnating. It stagnates your relationship, it stagnates your work, it stagnates all of those things. So understanding your role gives you a clearer sense of not being scared to say things and say, no, you know what, I really don't want to do this, or I do. Instead of doing it and then carrying resentment that you did it on top of everything else you have to do. Instead of just saying, this really doesn't fit today, I'm sorry, but I can do it on another day. And if you really don't want to do it, saying that this just isn't right for me. It just takes the pressure off right there. Instead of waiting until you're holding a lot of things in and then you wait for that person to do something and get mad at them, and it has nothing to do with what you were really mad at. So just saying the truth as you go along helps you begin to clean up and then not carry those things inside. And they're simple little things. I used to think it was the big things, but it's the little things. I did a teen retreat for children. They were between 12 and 15 years old, 17 teenage girls in my house for 10 hours. And I started discussions. I would put a thought out there and we'd start talking about it. And you know, you'd think they were going to talk. I mean, they did talk about sex and going to parties and what they were finding and how that was affecting them. But bigger than all of that, you know what really bothered them? Walking past one of their friends in the hallway at school and them not saying hello to each other. That really, and I was like, wow, that's it. Is that where I'm starting? And I didn't realize how much it bothered them over and above everything else. They had clearer views about other things, like, hey, you know what, this is what I'm ready for and what I'm not, but it really bugged them with someone they grew up with and now they're in that awkward age. And I said, well, break the energy, and one of you just say, hey. Don't even say anything, I just go, hey. They'll go, hey, and then you'll feel better, it's done. And then you could just go on, and just learning to break the energy that makes you uncomfortable, and then you start getting stronger and stronger. Then you start facing something bigger. Then you might talk a little more, and they can build their worlds, and that's part of their bigger picture, is being able to get along with people there. And we're trying to do it through our jobs and through our talents and through, you know, our work and all of that. And we can, if each one of us does those things and knows who we are, we start to know better the world we live in. We start putting our time into the things that make sense in our communities, and it does ripple effect. It has no way not to. Love really does propel. I'm proof of that because this book came out of nothing. I had no money 3 years ago. I still have no money. But now I have a book. It's a big deal. And I could have just said, I can't do it because I don't have money. People found me and helped me and did things from their hearts. And this is a totally passion-driven book. It really came out of just not saying no. Just finding a way to say yes, that simple. And there were hard days in it. There were hard days. But yet, every person's story is important. The stories that you're reading from your granddaughter, those are important. That's her view, but another kid's gonna get that. Just like another adult will get this. And whoever's meant to have this, it's theirs. This book finds people. I know I wrote it, but it's got a life of its own right now. It's just amazing. It's finding people who read it and go, you wrote this about me. And I'm like, I didn't know you when I was writing this book. But it's cute and it's nice, but it's also very honest because it tells us how we're all different, but then we're all the same, and then we're all different again. But that same part is what's in here. It's the part without the walls, without the you can'ts, without the excuses, without the no's, and without saying, you did this to me. We're saying, wait a minute, I did this to me and I let you do that to me. I was part of that. And taking that responsibility, that just begins to take the weight off, and you may not have to take Advil that day. That's all I'm saying. It just works out, you guys. That's a really hard thing to do. Anger is one of the things that is hardest to control when you're in it.
Yeah.
But if you can, and I've been able to reroute thoughts a lot with people that I've worked with, is to remind yourself is what you can't share anything unless you already have it. So if you're angry, you share your anger. You're actually dumping it on a moving target. It could be anybody who's walking by, and you're going to find a reason to get mad at them, and then there it goes. But really to remind yourself and ask yourself, wait a minute, I'm really mad right now, and you always know why. People do know why. They know that something hurt them here, and then it made you react this way. Well, I'm going to show them this, or I'm going to show them I could do this, or I'm better than that, or I'm better than them, or whatever goes through your mind and how you're going to trail. And really to remind yourself that, wait a minute, I was actually just hurt.
Yeah.
And it was my ego that was bruised, which is why I'm mad. And I write a lot about ego. Ego is one of the, I know it's not a funny thing because it really does do destructive things in relationships and that, but when I wrote about it, it was funny to me because it's so obvious. It's one of the most obvious emotions that we have is our ego, when we have to prove whatever. And if you can just step back and say that there's nothing I need back from this, it really takes away a lot of the anger that you feel. Because it's what we expect that makes us angry. The expectation, the control, us looking good, us not looking like a fool, all of that starts having a play in when we're angry. But to really say, well, what did I really want from that I'm so angry? And to reroute your thought and say, just, you know what, I'm really sad and hurt because nobody recognized whatever. Why did I need the recognition? And then start asking yourself questions as to why you needed those things that you're mad at for not getting. Because it does come back to you. Did you ever notice when you're happy already, everything else is great?
Yeah.
And when you're not, everything else stinks? Why? It wasn't the day. It was the way you're looking at it. And that's really what's happening. That's a short answer.
Okay.
Yes. I've had to work with months for people on that one. It's a very difficult thing when you're in it.
Yeah.
Or when you're under pressure. I work with a lot of attorneys who have a lot of pressure and don't have time to see the good because they're too busy working in the problems.
Yeah.